The idea that one country could accidentally ignite World War III sounds like the plot of a Hollywood blockbuster. Except this time, the explosions aren't CGI. Right now, one name keeps popping up in intelligence briefings, military briefings, and late-night geopolitical debates: Iran. But here's the real question nobody seems to answer clearly. Does Iran actually want a global war? Or are we watching a high-stakes game of military poker where everyone keeps raising the bet and hoping the other side folds? Because over the past year, the Middle East has gone from tense to someone accidentally left the stove on and the whole kitchen is on fire. Missile launches, naval confrontations, cyber attacks, proxy militias, and one of the most dangerous choke points on Earth suddenly turning into a geopolitical pressure cooker. If you zoom out and look at the big picture, the situation looks less like a random crisis and more like a chain reaction. And the first domino fell earlier than most people realize. Back in October 2024, Iran launched roughly 200 ballistic missiles toward Israel in one of the largest direct attacks between the two countries. Now imagine two nuclear-capable regional powers suddenly trading missile barrages across the Middle East. That's not a bad day in diplomacy. That's the kind of event that makes Pentagon analysts start dusting off their worst-case scenario folders. But the real story isn't just missiles, it's escalation. Because every major move since then has followed the same dangerous pattern: strike, retaliate, escalate. And by mid-2025, things jumped to an entirely new level. In June 2025, Israel launched a massive operation involving around 200 fighter jets, striking roughly 100 targets across Iran, including military installations and nuclear facilities. Think about that for a second. 200 fighter jets. That's not a warning shot. That's the military equivalent of kicking down the door. Explosions rocked major Iranian sites, command centers were hit, and Tehran called the strikes a declaration of war. At that point, the conflict stopped being theoretical. It became real, and real wars don't stay contained for long. Because Iran doesn't fight like most conventional militaries. Instead of relying purely on tanks and fighter jets, Tehran built something much more complicated over the past 2 decades: a regional network. Proxies, allies, militias. From Lebanon to Iraq to Yemen, Iran developed relationships with armed groups that could open multiple fronts at once. It's the geopolitical version of playing chess with pieces scattered across 5 different boards. Meaning, if Iran decides to escalate, it rarely fights alone. And that's exactly why military planners worry about the next stage. Because Iran's strategy has never been about winning a traditional war against the United States. That would be like bringing a knife to a drone swarm. Instead, Iran's playbook focuses on something far more disruptive, making a war so chaotic and expensive that even superpowers struggle to control it. Think cyber attacks targeting infrastructure. Think missile strikes against regional bases. Think swarms of small, fast attack boats surrounding billion-dollar warships. And most importantly, think oil. Because sitting right next to Iran is one of the most important waterways on the planet. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow stretch of water that carries roughly 1/5 of the world's oil supply. In other words, if global energy markets were a highway, Hormuz would be the only bridge across the river. Now imagine someone threatening to blow that bridge up. That's exactly why tensions exploded again in February 2026, when the region entered what analysts now call the Strait of Hormuz crisis. Following major US and Israeli strikes inside Iran, Tehran responded with missile attacks and warnings that ships could no longer safely pass through the strait. Suddenly, tankers were rerouting. Shipping companies panicked. Oil markets started sweating, because if that waterway closes, even partially, the economic shockwaves could ripple across the entire planet. Gas prices, supply chains, stock markets, everything. And this is where the World War III fear really starts creeping into conversations. Not because Iran is trying to conquer the world, but because a regional war in the Middle East rarely stays regional. History proves that. All it takes is one miscalculation. One missile hitting the wrong ship, one drone striking the wrong base, and suddenly multiple superpowers are involved. Which leads us to the most dangerous question of all. What happens if the conflict spreads? Because the next stage of this crisis isn't just about missiles or naval skirmishes. It's about something far more unpredictable. The domino effect of alliances, rebellions, and military responses that could pull half the world into the same battlefield. And when we look at what's already happening inside Iran itself, things get evil.